back in the day. Yeah, my apologies to anybody still using one when I'm saying back in the day. But here's the main menu of the Brother word processor. Like anything you could possibly want to do is ready for you. Why? There's word processing and spreadsheet and desktop reference. All, of course, offered by Brother in a process by which they assess what the market is, they decide in their limited real estate what icons and functions behind them to place, and then they do it. Not a very generative technology in the sense that it is not open to reconfiguration or new applications from anybody else but Brother. Now, this all started to change in about 1977. Here, one of the few pictures remaining from 1977, shows the West Coast Computer Fair in San Francisco, California. And this is a 21-year-old Steve Jobs demoing the Apple II computer. The first general-purpose machine like the IBM 360, but accessible because all of its parts for the first time were in a convenient plastic molded case that required no soldering to put together. And therefore, consumers, regular people, well, at least regular nerds, could buy this thing, turn it on when they got home, and be treated to a blinking cursor. It was just like, really, where do you want to go today? Like, what would you like to do? And then you'd either have to program it yourself or obtain floppy disks and software from somebody else in order to get it going. This is a generative device in the sense that Apple specifically didn't try to anticipate what you would use this for. What an odd product. We're making this thing, we don't know what you'll use it for. More like lumber, right? It's not like lumber for your house, it's just lumber, DIY. You want the lumber, you figure out what to do with it, or you have a contractor who does that for you. This is exemplified when a program called VisiCalc was invented by Dan Brinklin and Bob Frankston in 1979. And VisiCalc was the first spreadsheet. These guys came up with it, it ran on the Apple, and suddenly businesses wanted spreadsheets. And in order to get them, they had to get Apple IIs. So they started buying Apple IIs. Apple sees a huge spike in Apple II sales and doesn't know why. Oh, well, we'll just produce more computers. Somebody's doing something with them. And they had to do market research to figure out that the spreadsheet had arrived. Good for Apple, good for the consumer, good for Dan Brinklin and Bob Frankston. But a very different model from either the IBM 360 or the Freedom FlexAway. Now, of course, Steve Jobs wasn't the only one. I checked that there were Microsoft people here. He had his own compatriots. This is Bill Gates, of course, pictured in his 1977 traffic stop outside Albuquerque, New Mexico. The two things I really like about this photo are, one, he's grinning from ear to ear, even at that tender age, saying, I'll buy and sell you all someday. And secondly, his sense of fashion has not changed significantly in 30 years. And to me, this photo represents so much about the spirit of the generative technology, which is people like this, young, smiley, socially obtuse nerds are the people that drive it forward and help the rest of us with what they invent. And you know what? That's just fine. But the thought that this guy could come up with something that would beat what Brother and the other official companies of the era, including IBM, could come up with, wow, who would have guessed it except for the fact that it happened? So we have this amazing device whose descendants since 1977 have not, in my view, fundamentally changed. It's the general-purpose personal computer. A device that here, pictured from 1992, says, you can come near me, you can use me, I'm cheap, I'm a commodity, but I'm also completely reconfigurable from whatever purposes you think of or anybody you know who's nerdier than you are can think of and wants to share a floppy disk with you. We know that this thing dates from 1992 because of the presence of the 66 light in the chassis. Do people remember the 66 light? And then the button next to it, you press it, and what does it do?
Halves.
What's that?
Halves or doubles?
It halves or doubles, yeah. Usually it says 33.
Yeah.
And then the thing just, works more slowly. odd feature. It's actually the speed at which the hamsters inside run to power it. And I just have to share with you that they've actually now invented a hamster-powered paper shredder. So you put the paper in the top, and the hamster runs on the wheel here, and that then shreds the paper, and the hamster can live in the shredding. So it's reuse is a viable alternative to recycling. So the fundamental characteristic of that machine then and the PC that is driving this PowerPoint presentation right now is that you hand it any code, it runs the code. .exe, literally or metaphorically, it's got executable. And anybody can write a .exe. And Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Packard Bell and Hewlett-Packard, you name the manufacturer of the PC or the operating system, they have nothing to say about it. It's true of Windows, it's true of Mac OS, it's certainly true of Linux. All of them are equally, in my view, generative for these crucial purposes. That's what gives rise to the off-the-shelf software movement, so that anybody with any variety of business models can offer up new applications. And that's what set the stage for another transition from sterile to generative in the network space. So far we've just been talking about the hardware space, but let's take a quick look at the network space. This is CompuServe circa 1994, 1995, just having adapted its graphical user interface. It used to be that you would sign on to CompuServe a la a teletype, and you were a subscriber. If you weren't a subscriber of CompuServe, you weren't going to be able to do anything. It would ask for your user ID in octal and your password. And here's the main menu. It looks just like the front of the Brother word processor. Welcome to CompuServe. Here are the buttons we've designed for you. Here are the icons representing media and sports and entertainment. And when you press each button, it'll take you to another screen designed by CompuServe with you in mind, trying to respond to market forces. But what you will see is the result of what CompuServe thinks will entertain you, either from their own repositories or from specific content deals that they broker with partners. If you're a third party and you want to offer some media to a CompuServe subscriber, you have no path by which to do so except through a deal with CompuServe. And in that sense, I say CompuServe, both in its content and in its functionality, what you can actually do with it, is sterile. Reliable, good. I don't mean by sterile bad. I just mean not going to give you a huge range of new applications, and certainly none from third parties, unless in coordination with CompuServe. So this starts to change when another network takes over. Now, in 1994, if you had asked the Digerati about the future of consumer networking, they would have said it would be a battle between CompuServe and The Source and Prodigy and Minitel and all of the proprietary networks vying for your subscription. Very few, if any of them, would have had much to say about this strange academic backwater network called the Internet. Three of whose founders are pictured here, John Postel, Steve Crocker, and Vince Cerf, classmates at the same high school in Southern California. It's like we have the French Club or the Debate Club. They have the Let's Build a Global Internet Club. And he's the refreshments chair, and it works out great. They're pictured here in their 25th anniversary retrospective from Newsweek, showing that you can build a network out of just about anything. It's somewhat puzzling that their network doesn't work, because it goes from his mouth to his mouth and his ear to his ear. And my earnest hope is that it's an inside joke, rather than that the framers of the Internet don't know how to string tin cans together. But the network they built reflected the fact that they weren't looking to make a ton of money, nor did they have a ton of money to invest. So the protocols